On the afternoon of the 4th of December, 1872, a ship in the middle of the Atlantic noticed another ship behaving strangely. She was under sail, but she was wandering, yawing off course, no one at her wheel, no one on her deck, and no one flying a signal for help. The passing ship was called the Dei Gratia. The captain knew the drifting vessel. He had dined with that captain in New York just weeks before, so he sent men across the water to see what was wrong. They climbed aboard a ship in good order. The cargo was sound. There was food and fresh water, enough to last for 6 months. The crew's belongings were still in their quarters. A child's things were still where they had been left. And there was not a single living soul aboard. 10 people had left this ship in the middle of the ocean. They left behind a vessel that was, by every measure, perfectly able to carry them. They were never seen again. And for more than 150 years, no one has been able to say why. The ship was the Mary Celeste, an American merchant brigantine recently refitted, sound and well found. Her captain was Benjamin Briggs, 37 years old, an experienced and well-respected seaman from a seafaring family, a man who did not drink and was a part owner of the ship he sailed. This was not a reckless master. This was about as safe a pair of hands as the age could offer. And that matters because of who he brought with him. Briggs sailed with his wife Sarah and their 2-year-old daughter Sophia. Their young son stayed home for school. A man does not bring his wife and his baby daughter onto a ship he thinks is dangerous. With them went a crew of 7, and below decks, the cargo. 1,701 barrels of alcohol. Not the drinking kind. Industrial alcohol, bound for Genoa in Italy. They left New York on the 7th of November, 1872. The last entry in the ship's log was made on the 25th, near the islands of the Azores. After that, the record goes quiet. So let's go aboard with that boarding party and see exactly what they saw. Because the strangeness of this case is in the details. The ship was wet and untidy, but she was not sinking. There was water in the hold, about 3.5 feet of it. That sounds alarming. It wasn't. For a ship her size, that was a nuisance, not a death sentence. She was still entirely seaworthy. The cargo was nearly all there. The food and water were there. The crew's clothes, their pipes, their personal things were left behind in their bunks. Whatever happened, no one had time, or no one had reason, to pack. But some things were gone. The ship's only lifeboat, a small yawl, was missing. Not torn away, launched, deliberately put into the water. The captain's navigation instruments were gone, his sextant and his chronometer. And the ship's papers were gone too, all of them. Except for one, the captain's daily log. On the deck lay a sounding rod, the tool used to measure water in the hold, as if someone had been checking the flooding right before the end. And one clue in particular hinted at how it ended. One of the pumps had been taken apart, and trailing behind the ship, some accounts say, was a frayed length of rope hanging down into the sea. There were no bodies, no blood, no sign of any struggle at all. These people had not been dragged off this ship. They had walked off it, into a tiny boat, in the open Atlantic, and left a sound ship behind them. The question is not what killed them. The question is why on earth they left. For 150 years, people have tried to answer that. Let's clear away the wreckage first. Theory 1. Pirates. The simplest guess, and the first to fall. Pirates take things. Here, nothing was taken. The cargo sat untouched. The valuables stayed in the cabins. No pirate empties a ship of people and leaves the treasure behind. Theory 2. Mutiny. That the crew rose up and killed the captain. But there was no blood, no damage, no sign of a fight. The marks, once called bloodstains, turned out to be rust. And Briggs was a fair, sober master who had brought his own family aboard. Even if a crew had seized the ship, why would they then abandon it and sail off to die in a rowing boat? Theory 3. Monsters. A giant squid, a sea creature. Later, when the legend had grown, aliens and the Bermuda Triangle. We can let those go quickly. A squid does not neatly launch a lifeboat. And the Mary Celeste was found near Portugal, thousands of miles from the Triangle, in a story invented a century later. Much of the myth came from a piece of fiction. In 1884, a young writer named Arthur Conan Doyle published a short story about the ship, with a tale of murder and revenge. And the public never quite let the invention go. Strip all of that away, and you were left with the truth that the people at the time already suspected. Something frightened a careful captain so badly that he chose, in a moment, to put everyone he loved into a tiny, open boat. And the only suspects left are the ship itself and the sea. So what could do that? There are two strong answers, and they may even be the same story. The first is the cargo. When the alcohol was finally unloaded in Genoa, 9 of the barrels were empty. Those 9 were made of a more porous wood, the kind that leaks. Fumes from industrial alcohol, building in a warm hold, can be violent. A rumble, a sudden venting, even the fear of an explosion to come might have sent everyone scrambling up onto the deck, certain the ship was about to blow apart beneath them. The second is simpler still. The pump was in pieces. With it out of action, Briggs may have had no reliable way to tell how fast the water was rising. He had just come through rough weather. He sounded the hold, saw water, and could not be sure it wasn't getting worse. He may have believed, wrongly, that his ship was going down. And here is where the two stories meet, in one terrible decision. Frightened of an explosion or of sinking, Briggs does the careful thing. He gets everyone off the ship and into the yawl. But he does not cut them loose. He ties the small boat to the Mary Celeste with a long rope, so they can ride out the danger and climb back aboard once it passes. Then the wind takes the ship. A sound ship under sail moves faster than a tiny boat full of people. The rope draws tight, and somewhere out there, it parts. The Mary Celeste sails on, empty, healthy, indifferent. And 10 people are left behind in an open boat in the December Atlantic, watching their only refuge disappear over the horizon without them. That frayed rope trailing in the water is the ghost of that theory. It is the most convincing answer we have. But we have to be honest about its holes. The boarding party said they smelled no fumes and found the main hatch sealed. The water in the hold was never really enough to sink her. Each leading theory explains most of it and stumbles on one detail. So no court and no historian has ever been able to close the file. The ship we can explain. The people we cannot. Not fully. We can't explain the fear that drove them over the side, and not the hours that followed. This is the part that stays with me. The Mary Celeste was found in good order, because she was in good order. There was, in all likelihood, nothing truly wrong with her. The flooding was survivable. The fumes, if there were fumes, passed. Had everyone simply stayed aboard, they would almost certainly have lived. They abandoned the one thing that could have saved them, out of a fear that turned out, in the end, not to be fatal at all. A steady captain, his wife, a 2-year-old child, 7 sailors. All of them gone into the water, while the ship that frightened them carried on without a scratch. The Mary Celeste sailed for years afterward, under other hands, until a later captain deliberately ran her onto a reef to cheat an insurance company. Even her end was a human one. But her name never lost its meaning. To this day, when a place is found empty, with everything in order and everyone gone, we reach for the same 2 words: a Mary Celeste. The ship told us almost everything. The sea kept the rest. If this case pulled you in, there are more waiting. Pick one. See where it leads.